Everybody, for tuning in to Coder Conversations once again. If you want to catch up on any previous episode, visit us at www.coderconvos.com. And I'm your co-host, Kevin, and I have our co-host, Brian.
Brian Russick, professional drummer, drum teacher based out of the Suffolk County, Long Island area. You can find me on the web at brianrussick.com.
And for tonight's guest, we have Bob Lement. Welcome to the show.
Now I feel like I should know how to play a musical instrument.
No worries. No worries.
Does a comb with wax paper count?
Close enough.
Kazoo. Will a kazoo work?
Kazoo. Yeah. Kazoo.
I can do the kazoo and the that whistle that goes.
Or like harmonica.
Well, poorly. Sure. If you just want to sounds like a dog got it and ran away with it. Sure. I can do the harmonica. That'd be about it.
Yeah, it's never too late to pick up an instrument. I just picked up the bass guitar. So
really? Well, I've picked up a bass guitar. I just can't play the damn thing.
Yeah, same here.
I can lift it, but I can't play it. Yeah.
You can lift it. But yeah. No, I'm fortunate because both of my kids know how to play multiple instruments, but I do not. So apparently either I'm super stupid or my parents gave me no opportunities. I'm going with the second one.
I mean, you need to have people in your corner. You need to have, like, my parents were like totally cool with the drums. Drums are loud as hell. And, and I wasn't very good at first, just like anyone starting. And they didn't mind, they were cool about it. And they always encouraged me doing music. And I think it's a big reason why I'm still doing it today. My dad especially really encouraged me to move forward in that direction.
That's fantastic. That's what they should be doing.
Oh, absolutely.
So, like, did you encourage your kids to play instruments, or is that something?
Oh, yeah. I'm like, whatever you want. You want a guitar? Here's a guitar. You want keyboard? We'll get you a keyboard. I mean, it didn't even matter if they didn't play them or not. If they said they wanted something, I tried to get it. And then, just having it within arm's reach helped a lot. And then, by not saying no, right? So if you want lessons, sure, you can get lessons.
Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't any frictionless, right? That's the marketing term, but frictionless learning. So anything they wanted to learn, I'm good to go, right? I'll take you to lessons. I'll make it all happen. If you give it a go, just give it a try. You don't have to be good at it. So yeah, but it just turned out that both of them seemed to have a knack and picked up on things. And so once they kind of learned one thing, so my son plays electric guitar, electric or otherwise.
Yeah.
And he has a bass that he plays a bit. He got a keyboard that he plays a bit as well. And then my daughter she plays like ukuleles and mandolins, and so she has those.
Oh wow.
But,
that's awesome.
That kind of stuff. So, but I mean, it was whatever, just kind of make it available, right? I mean, as much as you can. I mean, obviously you can't. I'm not going to buy some $20,000.
I mean, that's
guitar,
that's more than most parents do, because like even my parents, they were supportive of it, but I had to get a drum set, from someone like loan me a loaner kit. To get started, because my parents were like, "Oh, we don't have the money to buy you drums; they're really expensive."
Right. Well, yeah, and it can be,
and they can be expensive, yeah.
But I guess I lucked out. But in I guess it would be junior high, middle school, whatever it is, they both did band for a while, and I bought an oboe. Thankfully, I didn't have to buy a tuba. I had to buy the mouthpiece for the tuba.
Okay.
He didn't stick with that, but
that's a tough one. That's a tough instrument, the tuba.
And he played the tuba for a while, but he's like, you know what? I don't like this. He goes, I want to play a guitar, and so I'm like, okay, we'll find a guitar then. I mean, the other thing, you don't have to get the best thing. You know what I mean? We got whatever we could get at the time. It wasn't like they got the best, freaking guitar. It wasn't a status thing. It was a learn how to play it thing. And so I found, I probably didn't even find it. I'm sure my wife found it because I'm not good at finding things, but she found something reasonable, and then it took off from there. And then later on, he got nicer guitars that, once he kind of got over the hump, so to speak, and was playing it regularly and enjoying it, then he got a Gretsch, and I think he's got a Strat, and
nice.
And then he's got Alvarez acoustic. But anyway,
so now do your kids play in bands, or they just play on their own?
Just play on, pseudo, not like, going on stage or anything, but they get together with friends and play, over other people's houses generally for whatever reason, but not, professionally or anything at this point. But then they've got other interests. So that was, to me, the big thing was like Kevin, right? I'm sorry, Kevin, if I forgot.
Yeah.
Was just to get them interested in doing something, right? And kind of working that part of your brain, because it's a different part of your brain, right? So if they stuck with it or didn't stuck with it, I didn't care. I just wanted them to do something and experiment, right? So they needed to figure out if they liked it or not. And so then they moved on to some other things, but they still both play, randomly, not as much as they used to sometimes, but they still know and they still do it, and they'll get bored with something and then they'll sit down and noodle with their instruments and then go off and do, whatever new thing. But
how old are your kids?
Well, they're older now. They're both in their 20s now, but this was all whenever they were younger, like middle school and high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's different from a lot of parents. Like, they won't typically invest money unless they feel their kids are going to stick with it. So what kind of made you just say, I don't care if you stick with it. I just want you to do something?
I grew up with a lot of money talk. We can't afford this. We can't afford that. And the funny thing is, I grew up fairly like lower middle class, right? No money for anything but the basics, and you had decent enough stuff, but you didn't get a lot of it. My wife was on the other end, and so she was more upper middle class kind of thing. And so, but anyway, whenever we got married, I was like, yeah, whatever they want. I don't really want anything myself, right? So I was always like, whatever they want, let's just try to get it. If we can swing it, let's swing it. And worst case scenario, we sell it on eBay or something.
Exactly.
You're going to be down a few bucks because it's used or whatever, but you're not, then you roll that into something else. You're going to spend money to live. That's, if you haven't figured it out yet, folks, you can't live without spending money. That's the system. It's rigged. It's rigged in other people's favors. So, you might as well just do what you can. And at the end of the day, I think they're both better for it. They both, have the ability to do something that, helps them, right? Because those kind of things help you focus. They help you kind of think through, do problem solving. They help you relax, right?
Yeah, to me, playing the drums is therapeutic. It gets like, I have anxiety, so I'll have anxiety throughout the day, and then at 3:00 I play drums for 2 hours, pretty much every day. Sometimes an hour and a half, sometimes hour and 15, but I try to do the full 2 hours just to like keep pushing myself, getting better and better, furthering the art form, stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you have a hobby. I think one of the worst things for kids is they don't have any hobbies they can call their own. Like, we're I want to say this. Well, I'll just say it. So some parents push their kids to do certain things, right? And they're like, you're going to take soccer, you're going to take baseball, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And then, some people, like, you had the experience that you mentioned, that don't get to do anything, right? There's got to be a middle ground, right? So where you encourage, but you don't force. And then what happens is they pick up these things that they really like along the way, and they take them into their adulthood. And then they have something that they enjoy. They have something that they can do that's not work, which sucks. Everybody has to work, and it's terrible. We need to really fix that. Do destructive things, right? So then I got nothing to do. Let's go hit mailboxes with baseball bats and then get in trouble, right? That's what I used to do as a kid. But anyway, you get in trouble, right? So because it enters your head, because you're like, I got nothing to do, but I have this old baseball bat that I got. And it'll be great. Let's go get drunk or high and run around and beat the crap out of mailboxes.
Mailboxes.
I lived in the country, by the way.
Where'd you grow up?
So there's a terrible little town called Decatur, Illinois, which you may or may not know where it's at, but that's where I grew up. And I mean, that was kind of a pastime, was doing stuff like that. Just kind of mildly delinquent, I would call it, not overly delinquent, but it inconvenienced a lot of people, and so forth. And eventually those things catch up with you. But, there wasn't too much to do, and you pick and choose what you do based on your exposure. And somebody thought it was a good idea, and you say, okay, yeah, that sounds good tonight. Let's go do that. And then it's not such a good idea. You guys never did that? I guess, did you grow up in the city, or?
I grew up in like a mid-sized town, Killeen, Texas, kind of like one of those army towns.
Okay.
Not much to do.
So you might have done that, because I mean, that sounds like a good time on a Friday night down there in Texas.
I pretty much stayed on the internet. I don't really like going out.
Oh, okay. Well, see, I'm a pre-internet person, so yeah, we didn't have the luxury of being on the internet. Christ.
How'd you keep yourself occupied?
Yeah, but I mean, that's fine. I'm just, back, pre-internet, you just had to make your fun by, tearing down highway signs.
Right.
Which I did that as well. Take a chainsaw. You'd be surprised how big a highway sign is. It takes a chainsaw to take down a highway sign. I mean, just the one that says like the number of the highway that's on the side. Those things are huge. And the piece of wood that's got it stuck in the ground is giant as well. And so, yeah, we'd take a chainsaw out and saw down highway signs.
Oh, wow.
Which is not, I don't recommend it to anyone.
Yeah.
So how did you eventually end up transitioning into internet radio?
Well, see, this is a bit of my hobby, right? So, I'll give you the nickel version here. So I was on college radio and did a show on college radio and so forth with a friend of mine, and we graduated college and had to be out in the real world and act like we're responsible adults. And I said, guess what? There's this thing, and this is pre-podcasting, there's this thing called internet radio. And this would be 1999. Actually, 1998 is when I kind of come up with the idea, but January 1999 is when we started. And I said, we can do our show on the internet. And so we've been doing it every week since January 1999. We do tell funny stories, and sometimes they're current, sometimes they're old. But the idea is to basically crack each other up, and then tear down the other person while they're telling their story, and make fun of them. And
awesome.
So we've been doing that for a while now, and but it's been fun. I mean, it's keeps me out of trouble, and other than with him, I guess, but he's used to it. We're both used to it, so we're pretty thick skinned with each other, so it doesn't really become a problem. But that's basically the long and short of it. And so, but everything's changed over the years, and there's so much more now, and so this I guess it's been now. I guess it'll be 3 years. So about 3 years ago, I got into Podmatch and Matchmaker and all these kind of things, and I'm like, I'm going to be a guest as well. And so then that's why I'm talking to you guys. And I said it'll be fun to be a guest and do this kind of stuff and see what other people are talking about. I like to talk about movies, so I do a lot of movie podcasts because I have an interest there, and I have tech interests, and so I do some tech shows as well. And then and anybody who just I usually always have to have something that's kind of funny, because I don't usually take it too seriously as far as all that goes. Although right now it sounds very serious. So
now, how do you get your guests?
No, I'm the guest.
Oh, you're the guest.
I'm the guest. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Well, no, our show, we basically, it's just me and him doing our, pseudo comedy bit. Every once in a while we'll have somebody on, but most of the time I'm guesting on other shows. So just throw yourself out in the world and you're like, hey, I can be a guest. Guess what? I got a degree in cinema. I can talk about movies. Really? Right. Okay, thanks. Come over and talk. And they'll be like, okay. And then I'll go, yeah, I'm into technology. I know all kinds of technology. Oh, great. Come over and talk about it. Let's talk about AI. Yeah, let's talk about AI like everybody else.
Yeah, that's the hot topic of the day.
Yeah, exactly. What do you got? Well, I shouldn't ask that question, right? I make fun of it. But yeah. Where are you at in the AI spectrum of things?
You want to go first, Brian?
I don't use it personally. I feel like
is it a personal offense to you to have the AI stuff?
I don't see it as a positive. I think we're getting away from our humanness with AI.
Yeah,
what do you
pretty
think,
much.
Kevin?
Stay away from it as much as possible. Like I slightly different beliefs than most on AI. I kind of feel like it's very dangerous. Like a lot of the creators of AI, they're talking about building bunkers and all of this stuff. Like Sam Altman, he said he was to build a bunker before they released the AI with AGI. Before they released that on society. So it makes you think like, how safe is this really? Like they tried to shut down one AI, and it attempted to blackmail like the researchers. So
that's hilarious. Like, I've been watching your search history, buddy.
Yeah, that's
I'm gonna tell your wife about your penchant for hentai.
It was actually attempting to expose his affair. Obviously, the affair was made up. They wanted to test to see what the AI would do, but it was going to blackmail him and say, "Oh yeah, you had an affair." So,
well, what do they expect? I mean, whenever you have flawed programmers, you get flawed programs, right?
Well, like the thing about AI is you can't really control it. Like it pretty much does its own thing. Like it's almost like a living being to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So, like, what is your opinion on AI? Is it something that you use regularly, or?
Well, so I think that it's I think it can be a really good tool for certain things, right? So and they're really pushing in that direction. So to help people with writing, because everybody is a crappy writer for the most part. There's not really a lot of good writing out in the world these days. And so that really is helpful, I think, to people because otherwise you just get all this junk. Unfortunately, you still get more junk, but at least it's well written sometimes. So that I think is a positive. The image stuff is kind of interesting. I've been playing with that for a while, creating whole images out of just a few few little lines of text and so forth is kind of cool. Although, to be honest, my experience has been that all of the ones that I have used, which I haven't used all of them, but get fixated, right? So if you say, like, for instance, I wanted to have a picture of a guitar on top of a bunch of aluminum cans. And so I said, I would like a picture of a guitar on top of, aluminum cans. Never one aluminum can in the picture. All it was guitars. It was guitars on top of guitars, and then guitars everywhere, right? And it's like it totally fixated on guitar and ignored aluminum cans, which it had to do with the story that I had told, or Miles had told. But so then I just created it myself, easier with clip art, because I could not get this thing to get over the guitar part of it. And and I've had that multiple times where I'll spend just as much time trying to think of how to tell it to make something that I want to see as me just going out and making it.
Yeah.
But I just keep trying. I mean, it's all experiments, so it's like, I keep trying, but it is aggravating to me. It's like, so I always say it's not. The intelligence right now is pretty low, in my opinion. It's artificial something, but it's not intelligent. At least not anything that I've been using. Because it doesn't. It can't see any nuance. It can't understand certain fairly easy commands that most people would be like, oh, okay.
Right. And it gets, more importantly, it gets stuff wrong. Like they call them
a lot of stuff wrong.
Hallucinations. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I was using, I think it was a Gemini or something, and which is pretty good for doing Excel formulas, right? So I was working on something in Excel and I wanted it to do some formulas for me. And so I type in what I want just to see what it would do. And then it comes back and I'm like, that's wrong. I go, you're wrong. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry. It's like C-3PO. Oh, so sorry, sir. So sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need that. I don't need to hear that. Just do it right. I mean, it's you have access to, a database full of things about doing formulas. I don't. I have to sit here and kind of crunch the process. I'm not an Excel, master or anything by any means. And so I want you to figure this out. I'm just saying, I want to add, this and this and this and come up with something and do this. This should be easy. This should be the easy stuff, because it's all, just data crunching, and it gets it wrong.
Right.
And then it's so mealy about it. It's like, quit whining, Christ.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it from a programming standpoint, really AI is going to replace the entry-level programmer, entry-level full-stack developer, because it can do a lot of the architecture, it can do a lot of the data finding, the basic, prototypes and things like it can do a lot of this stuff that a junior developer would be doing. So I feel like it's going to be really hard moving forward for people to break into the tech industry for that reason.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you need to kind of put people through their paces so they can get higher on the food chain, right? So if you don't need any junior people, then where do you get your senior people in 10 years?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the problem, that most companies are not really thinking ahead. They're just looking at the immediate profit savings or cost savings. And that's going to be the conundrum, like if everybody's relying on AI to write books or to do all of the creative work or just work in general, you're not going to have people to feed the AI to train, for it to have data to train on. So it's going to get
that's a whole other thing. The data to train on, right?
Yeah.
So probably for the last decade, they've been stealing everybody's stuff to train AI.
Yep.
And only now are they changing terms of service to say, if you create something here, it's going to be used to train AI. but they've been doing it for, a decade or more. And that kind of burns me a little bit because, I love the dual standard of everything in the world, where the sense is, God forbid you take a snippet of Facebook code and use it on something that you're working on. They'll, hunt you down and sue you and what have you.
Yeah.
But the other way around, they've been constantly mining everybody for their AI for a long time, and now, oh, wait a minute, we're changing our terms of service.
Yeah, no,
So
I
now
mean
it's okay.
it's all BS. I don't know if you heard about Cambridge Analytica, that whole
Hmm.
Facebook scandal.
Vaguely, I vaguely recall that, but fill me
Basically,
in.
Cambridge Analytica was a data science company that was, kind of like rigging elections. They were buying ads and they were
Oh,
pushing swing
yeah.
voters into the direction of, like, for Brexit.
Hmm.
They had a part in that, of getting Brexit approved, because
Hmm.
they isolated, okay, this is, like 30,000 people that are in the middle. Let's push them towards voting for Brexit. And so, they basically collected all this data on people, and they're using that data against us.
Hmm.
There's a documentary about it on Netflix. I think it's called The Great Hack.
Okay, I'll have to watch that. I'm totally. I mean, they unfortunately they've been doing that before we had the internet,
Yeah.
and so forth. If there's a really weird, I'm trying to remember. I watched the thing on it, but after World War, this is, believe me, by the time I get to the end of this, it'll make a little more sense. At the end of World War II, because all these masterpieces got stolen from people and then redistributed and so forth, there was a CIA thing to make modern art be the kind of art du jour back in the 50s. And so Jackson Pollock probably owes his whole career to the CIA, because what they wanted to do is devalue the Grand Masters, because all these, all these Nazi sympathizers had all all the good art from history because the Nazis stole it, and then whenever things turned south, they redistributed it and so forth. And so there was a whole CIA operation to push modern art to the forefront and drive up prices.
Oh wow.
And yeah, you think about it, you're like, what? Because basically they wanted to devalue all of this other art that had fallen into, the enemy's hands, as it were. And it worked, right? Everybody knows who Jackson Pollock is, right? And you look at
Yeah.
it, everybody to this day, like, I could do that. What's so
Right.
special, right? If you look at modern art, most people will be like, what's so great about it, but it was a whole thing, and they were successful. But it's the same thing then as it is now. It's just now we're using more technology. Back then, what they were doing was basically using government money to plant people to drive up prices and do fake auctions, and pay the influencers of the day, which would be a lot of magazines and art houses and things like that, to say this is the new thing. And so
Right.
yeah, they basically bribed them into into being its own market, and dropping the other market's value. And it has been happening. That was just an interesting example, but it's been happening forever. They're constantly doing. That's what this tariff bullshit is all about. Pardon my, is to mix up the works, right?
Yeah.
It everybody panics and worries about it, and we don't know the end game yet, but it's not tariffs. That's not the end game. That's what shakes everybody up.
It's not the solution.
No, and it's not a solution in the least. It's just a way to knock everybody off their pins, and so then it frees up something. Something is getting freed up that is going to move forward that we don't even know about, and we'll find out in 20 years, 25 years.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
they want to bring in that CBDC, central banking digital currency, and to bring that in, you have to shake up the current system.
Right. Yeah. It's I mean, the manipulation of everything has been constant. That's why, the interesting thing about AI is, with if you can do coding and so forth, and you have people losing jobs and so forth, why doesn't everything just bottom out, right? So why would we pay for all this stuff? Why are we paying so much whenever it's so cheap? And so it should make our lives easier, but that's never the intention. It always has to do something with grinding dollars, or stuff in other pockets.
It's always about money. Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we get into money. Money's not. Money came into existence just as a way for you not to have to, mow your neighbor's lawn whenever you did him a favor all the time. And now it drives a lot of things and a lot of people. When it was really just a medium of exchange, right? It could have been anything. It was, pelts for a long time, back in the early colonial days. You get beaver pelts and squirrels and what have you, and those were worth something, right? And so basically they've diluted product down to currency, and it's very aggravating, because you have to play the game because you don't want to be destitute. But by playing the game, you're just perpetuating, negative aspects of that on other people, who aren't either as good, or maybe don't have the opportunities or the talents needed to play the game better. And now we're getting a little bit political, but it gets to be, tiring, because these people are just as worthy as anybody else. Just because you're born in a poor family doesn't mean that you need to be poor for the rest of your life, because of circumstance and not being able to, maybe get an education, or, just have the opportunities, or fall into, habits that are negative to your person because it's easier, right?
Well,
And that's
now
what
like
everybody else is doing.
people can learn pretty much anything off of YouTube. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, exactly. But the funny thing is, they don't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, you're right.
and
But the information's there.
But so this is one of those things where for me, being a little bit older than you guys, and watching the internet, come to fruition, right? The fact that we don't have good internet to everybody is maddening. Okay, so there was a whole thing back in the 20s, I think it was, called rural electrification. Now, you guys may have heard of a thing called the Tennessee Valley Authority. And the Tennessee Valley Authority was all about getting people down south electricity, because at the time they were the ones that were lacking, right? And it's still to this day. People who live in the southern states, not everybody obviously, but southern states typically have a higher poverty level than northern states. And that has to do with, Civil War and stuff like that, because they were essentially neglected after the Civil War. They were put upon. But the Tennessee Valley Authority was about rural electrification to get electricity down to these folks in the 20s, I think it was. And so we needed that back in the 2000s. We needed rural internet. Now there was, I don't know if it's still in existence, but at least about 5 years ago or so, there was a rural internet initiative they were trying to do, right? Because there are still people in rural areas that cannot get any kind of decent internet connection. And that leaves them at a disadvantage, right? Yeah. Totally disadvantaged for them.
Yeah, what's so interesting about me is that, with all this technology, our productivity has greatly increased, but it seems like the average, the middle class and below, we're all getting poorer. So, like, all of those
Yes,
things
yeah.
are,
Yeah, that's the
Don't
thing.
you love reading those things where they're like, back in 1950, the average, couple of family of four could put, get a car, get a house, go on vacation, send their kids to college, all on one person's wages.
On salary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one salary. It's like, yeah, what happened, right? That's the big question
It's
because
so
you can't do
different
that now.
now. So different now. I mean, you see married people, they're both working. It's pretty much,
Yeah,
assumed at this point.
and I mean, I don't think having both people working is a bad thing in regards to their personal growth and everything, but it can be bad if you're both working and you're not making any headway, right?
Or
You're not
neglecting
or
kids,
neglecting your children, yeah.
Yeah, that's huge, I think.
Well, I can tell you, from experience that there was a point when my kids were little that my wife stopped working because it was cheaper for her not to work than it was to pay, right? To pay
Absolutely.
childcare.
yeah,
And,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, you had to
expensive.
scrimp and so forth, but it was a better deal to do that for a while than it was to pay. And so then once they got into school, then that alleviated a little bit of it, and so then you could make some changes because school becomes unfortunately becomes daycare in that sense. So
Right.
they're occupied for that part of the day. But yeah, but you're right. I mean, there is. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but there should never be a trillionaire, right? If
right,
we have a trillionaire, then the system is broken because no one person should really be able to accumulate that much. That what that tells me is they're not paying enough money to the people that are making them rich.
right.
And I'm not saying that everybody needs to make $1 million, right, at their job or anything, but I'm saying that somebody is paying the price for them to be a trillionaire.
Exactly.
And it could be in another country. It could be a lot. Now I think it's in this country as well. And so that really needs to be looked at. When your CEOs are making hundreds of times more than your average worker at that same company, they cannot, it is impossible for them to be worth that kind of money. It is an impossibility. Nobody is that smart that they can make that turn. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yes,
It's ridiculous.
it's all a game. Like, if you know how to play the economic game, then you're just gonna blow past everybody else. But you know,
Well, but you say that, but if I think there's been research on that the people who blow away everybody on the economic game are people who's have family wealth who's blown everybody away on the economic game for a long time. The
So
Jeff
you're
Bezos
talking
and
like
yeah,
old money.
old
yeah,
money, yeah.
generational
Right, or
wealth,
they're
old
giving
money.
something like
Yeah.
Elon Musk, even though he likes to portray himself as being kind of a coming from nothing. His father bought him companies.
Oh wow.
He bought him. I think he had some kind of like mining operation, and he gave him some mining operation. I mean, all these people, even Bill Gates and all these people. I don't know about, and Bezos, even his parents fronted him everything to get Amazon going,
Right.
right? So none of these people have come from nothing, even though they love to perpetuate that myth. There's very, very few people that come from nothing. They all have a leg up in some way, shape, or form to get going. Or even more to the point, they've failed lots of times on other people's money.
I mean, it's
Right.
You
almost
don't get to do
like
that. Kevin doesn't get to do that.
it's almost like there's a caste system
It
in our
is. Oh, it
society,
is. It's they've wanted to be somewhat invisible, but it is definitely there's the people who have and have don't have. And the terrible thing is, we talk about baby boomers. I'm not a baby boomer, by the way. But baby boomers had it better because they had, at that point, because this was coming out of the war, they wanted to kind of get people, they basically abused people for the whole war, right? Killed a lot of people died and were traumatized and everything. So you're coming out of the war, so you want to give the working class a better way of life, because basically you've been treating them like crap for several years. And so they did that, right? And so that's why all the baby boomers seem to have it so well. And then now we don't, right? So do you guys have pensions at all? Working at someplace with pension? No.
I wish.
No
Yeah,
pension,
hardly anybody does anymore, right?
job stability.
Can you retire at 55?
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Exactly. That and the boomers got to do that, right? So and what the media says is, well, they were allowed to do that, and now we're paying the price. No, we're not paying the price. That's why we have a freaking a trillionaire, is because we're not paying the price. He's just taking the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just going to get worse with, they're going to have the higher level AI tools to, do whatever they need to do, like manipulate the stock market or whatever, control the consensus in society. And I feel like the disparity is going to get even worse.
Yeah.
And it may, you're right. It may, that's why I think we basically, and I have a friend, this is not my theory or whatever. I have a friend, we're on a scarcity economy. So what's scarce is valuable. There's nothing scarce anymore. We literally could feed everybody with McDonald's vouchers. McDonald's has such a system in place, or Taco Bell, name any of your fast food. They have such a system in place. They could literally feed everyone easily, right? Now, obviously, it costs something and so forth, but the systems are in place to clothe people, to feed people, to house people, but they're not used in a way to do that. They're used in a way to generate funds, but they're not really used in a way to help people, right? But we have supply lines and the manufacturing abilities and all that to take care of these problems, but we don't, because we say, oh, it costs too much. But the realities are that, it doesn't cost too much. They're cutting things out of the government. They could literally cut a black budget project and fund the things they're cutting right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've actually heard somebody from the Bush administration. She said like 21 trillion. They took that and built like some underground cities.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that's believable? I personally do.
Yeah, no. Well, we can get into weird, offshoots. Do you guys believe that there is tunnels that run the length of the United States that some people get to utilize and other people's don't?
Yeah,
I don't doubt it. Yeah, I don't doubt it.
Who paid for that?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So
taxpayers.
The problems are, to me, is they're always an us versus them mentality, and there's no them. It's only us, and we as the us, need to help everybody, because it's not happening. They always want to, it's always Coke versus Pepsi and Apple versus. The funny thing about Apple versus PC. What the hell's PC? There's a bazillion companies selling PCs, so
right.
You know what I mean? It's not versus Microsoft, it's versus PC. It's like they just, okay, we'll make up. No one understands if we say Microsoft, so let's just say PC. They understand that, okay. Because the everybody's so gullible, they just fall for this competitiveness again and again and again and again. Because there's always, at some point, always something comes up to be the competitor, and then you have to pick a side, right? But when you pick a side, then everyone loses, because we're not helping everybody at some point. And I don't want to sound like, Bill, you're a communist or something.
I mean,
No,
what
I'm
would
not a
you
communist.
do? Yeah, what would you do though to change the current system that we're in? Like, do you have an idea of a better
Sure.
system?
Well,
Yeah.
it's happening, right? And this is one of the things that always aggravates me when I like to read these things with statistics and so forth. We're the only first world nation without health care for everybody.
Yeah.
Only one. Oh, well, we can't do that. It costs too much. Well, everybody else is doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're like, well, but they're smaller.
Yeah.
Well, wait, okay, all right. I'll give you that for a second. But the reason why we have divisions of government, right? So we have the federal government, which is everything. Then we have state governments. Then we have municipalities and counties and townships all the way down, right? The reason you have that is because then you can make it happen. So you're telling me the reason we can't have healthcare is because the United States is too big. Well, is Massachusetts too big? Because if you compare Massachusetts to Switzerland, it's probably about the same. So then they can do it. It can be done. It's just, it becomes this whole optics thing where they go, it's like mom and dad. Well, no, you can't have a cookie because you had too many cookies. How many cookies? Yeah, I had one. Well, no, there's this big bag of cookies, and if we eat all the cookies, well, we haven't ate all the cookies yet.
Well, I think the problem is no one wants to pay. No one wants to pay for these social programs, like the rich people in this country.
But I don't. The thing is, I don't necessarily think that we need to change the taxing structure. We need to change the spending structure. Because I can, I don't know if you guys have ever been involved in any kind of government projects, but the spending of governments is not always very transparent. And unfortunately, government spending. So have you guys ever heard of, end of year purchase or having to spend out your money at the end of the year?
Yeah.
And any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
So so government in and of itself is inefficient because the whole process is based on not saving money. It's based on spending all your money.
Yeah.
And so anybody who's halfway good at a budget in government is going to lose money. And so then they have to spend it. And so what they need to do is to monitor the spending a little bit more rather than worry. I mean, they're getting plenty of money. Trust me, they're getting more than enough money to do everything they want to do. But they aren't, monitoring the spending and stuff just gets wasted. I mean, they buy cars, they buy whatever they can buy, given the parameters of the rules that they're regulated under in order to spend out that money. And it goes to waste. It just goes to waste again and again and again and again every year, and so forth.
So that should be really going towards homelessness, let's say.
Yeah.
Or healthcare.
We've solved, chicken pox.
Right.
We've solved, well, measles is a bad example because it's in the news right now, but we solved measles for a while. and we saw polio. These were all things, and all they did was, somebody somewhere was able to manipulate the system to say, we need to solve this. So they can solve homelessness if they want to solve homelessness. It's not a matter of if they can solve homelessness. They keep throwing, oh, it's too expensive. It's too expensive. But the problem is we have, because, you guys are tech oriented guys. We have all the technology available right now. We don't even need AI. We don't even need that. We have all the technology available right now to track things, to calculate things, and to make things happen in an efficient manner. We don't need any more technology to do that, but we're not doing it. And therein lies the problem, is everything's there, but we're just not utilizing it. We're just ignoring it because, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to be the guy who, is going to be, everybody's going to be mad at,
Right. Would you say it's laziness?
Oh, yes, for certain. It's greediness, it's laziness, it's because I want to get reelected. So, I got to put money into a statue somewhere because that makes everybody happy and feel good. I mean, honestly, if government were run like a single mother's household who's trying to feed her kids, none of this would be an issue. Absolutely none of this. Because it all gets figured out, right? You need a new pair of shoes. Well, guess what? Your brother's grown up. He gets a new pair of shoes. You get his old pair of shoes. You know what I mean? I had so many hand-me-downs as a kid.
How does the system get fixed ultimately?
Well, unfortunately, you can't get fixed because
that's the problem.
Because nobody wants to give up their place at the table, and unfortunately, it's going to be generational fixes, and I think there's been, I think right now we're kind of sliding back, but there's been generational fixes, I think, as we've gone along here. But the other problem is the people are so old in government, because they don't want to leave and they need to. So I would, one of the first things, and nobody likes to talk about this, is term limits. You can be, in that position, but not for your whole freaking life.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, just like a job, when you lose it, you don't get health care, you don't get this, you don't get that, because these people, if you guys want to get set, right, go become a senator just for one term and you are set. You'll get health care rest of your life. Does any other job offer you that?
No.
Yeah,
so you see what I'm saying? So, I mean, hey, if I was a senator, I'd be like, hell yeah, give me that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's part of the problem is they make the rules, so they've already set the rules to be the best for them, and that hurts though. It hurts everybody. They get pensions, right? Yeah. They get money after they leave office. Why Trump wanted to be president again is beyond my mind, because he was set after he became president once. He gets security, he gets medical care, he gets a salary that's better than anybody gets. I think it's $400,000 a year now, in perpetuity until he dies. What more do you want?
I almost feel like he's just bored.
No, I think there's more manipulative factors in there, and ego and some other things.
Ego for sure. Yeah, for sure.
The whole idea behind the Congress and the presidency and everything, if you kind of read your history, nobody wanted to do it because it took you away from your farm or from your business. And it was kind of like jury duty, and over decades and so forth, they've manipulated that to be careers, and it was never meant to be a career. It was meant to be jury duty, and now we have something that's not what they set out to be. So the idea was, Kevin, we live in Ohio or something. Kevin, you run for senator this year, and then next year I'll run, and then somebody else will run, because it's a hardship. It's supposed to be a hardship, but you're supposed to be giving to the community, right? Like you do for jury duty, and you go and do it, and everybody hates it, and then they do their time, and then they come back home and get back to work, building whatever they want to build. But it's turned into these career things, and that's no good. I mean, therein lies the problem, is I think the aspect of being a career. Then on top of that, I mean, most of these people are lawyers, they're not, grocery clerks,
right?
Or, they're not any kind of low level worker. So they have no effing clue how people live. And
they're so disconnected from it. So far away from it.
Yeah, and I mean they put on a good show, right? But the realities are that they're, that's not the life that most people lead. and they don't understand. They don't even know how to go to the grocery store. If you I'm trying to think. I haven't know if I've seen this or not, but if you took like 3 senators randomly and said, let's go to the grocery store, I'm going to give you a list. And you got to go get these things, kind of do supermarket sweep where they do a game show where you have to get your list the fastest. These people would melt down. They have no freaking clue how to operate in the regular world, and so that's one of the problems as well, right? And God forbid we get on the part of diversity. They're all a bunch of old white men, and there's nobody has a different experience in life, right? So they've never grown up as somebody who's a different nationality or anything, who come from a different part of the world, and those are all problems. And because now, obviously now more than ever, we're not a society of white people.
Right.
I mean, that's a dream. There's nothing like that. You need to have people from all walks of life. I go back to my jury duty. The jury gets composed of your peers, right? So the idea is you have a wide swath of people to choose from to be on that jury to give a just ruling, so that way you don't have just one category of people who look down upon the plaintiff, right?
Sure.
But that's what we've got. That's what we're stuck with. I didn't think this was going to be a political show. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Well, yeah, man, we're at the top of the hour. We'll have to have you back, but before we get out of here, where can the audience find you at?
This is always the funny part. So if you come listen to me, I don't talk about any of this stuff on my show. I just tell stupid stories and make fun of people and try to have a good time. So yeah, this is also serious, but I got 2 things to plug if you'll indulge me. So I've been doing static radio, staticradio.com, @staticradio on the socials for a long time, and that's the funny stuff. I say it's the longest running comedy podcast on the internet because I don't know anybody else has been doing it that as long. If you have, please tell me. I'll stop saying it. And
no, you're right. You're right.
other thing I do is called Mondo Frico at mondofrico.com, and it's about weird stuff. So talk about like cryptids and UFOs and paranormal stuff and supernatural things. And so that's something that I just started doing with my co-host Rob, because I was on a different show that he was on, and I told a ghost story, and he thought it was fun, and so we ended up doing another show. So
that sounds very enjoyable.
But yeah, man, we'll definitely have to have you back, man. That hour passed by pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm sorry, folks. I'm not always so serious.
Oh no, it's all good. But yeah, man, we definitely appreciate you for coming on and sharing your perspective.
Well, yeah, I mean, hopefully, more people. You don't have to believe what I'm saying, but look into it. Look into it yourself. Make up your own mind. That's what I always say. Everybody needs to be their own, intrepid reporter trying to find the facts.
Exactly. And yeah, we'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. We'll catch y'all next time.
Thanks.